All right. Hey, everybody. How are we doing? How are we doing? Side chat, how's it going? Good to see all of you here. I hope everybody can hear me. If you guys could give me a thumbs up in the old side chat, let me know you can hear. It'd be great. It'd be awesome. Brainy Beaver can hear me. That's great. I hope so. He's in the old chat with me. All right. So here we go. We are going to kick this off here. We've got a couple of good guests with me today. I've got Brainy Beaver and Nate the lawyer. We're going to discuss some of the things that have been going on with the Shawn Hufford situation, and Brainy would like to address some of the recent allegations made against him by people in at least a corner of this community somewhere. Yeah. Everybody in side chat, we're going to keep it nice, keep it clean. I mean, whatever. Just don't be a jerk. Craven Mordick says I'm muted. No, I'm not. I better not be muted. You're fucking with me.
Yeah, you're not muted.
Yes, son of a bitch. All right. Let's get our guests in. Boom. Wait, no, that's not the one I wanted. This is the one that I wanted.
Oh.
All right. Now we're going to unmute. There you go, Brainy. The second you start making glass tinks.
I just say you said unmute, and I'm like,
oh. Good evening, gentlemen. How are we doing today?
I'm doing great. What's going on? I'm glad to be here. It's weird. I haven't done one of these things in a while, so it's just like it's feels new to go on someone else's channel and meet them for the first time. So how are you guys doing? It's good to meet you guys.
It is good. Yeah, I'm glad that you decided to come on the show because I have a couple of questions, and I know that you've done a lot more research into this than I have, which is important. Beaver, do you have your scratch and sniff vanilla stamps ready to go?
I do. And obviously, I'm going to start by saying that because I need to. That and I reached out to Nate yesterday, and was it yesterday? I think days.
Yeah, it was yesterday. We talked. Yeah,
it was yesterday. I reached out to Nate in the morning and talked to him one-on-one in voice chat. And we had a very productive conversation. It was a nice conversation. So obviously, I apologize to him for what came across as rightfully so would come across as what would be a racial slur. But I did explain to him, and I think Nate understands where I'm coming from. Where I just live in like Whiteville up here, and I live in an area where we say like boy howdy, and my neighbor said like boy it's hot out today to me, and I said it to the two white ladies that same stream. I ended a sentence with boy to two white ladies I was talking to in that same stream. So I did explain to him that is kind of where that comes from. So unfortunately, in my part of the world, we don't get a lot of opportunities to practice words that maybe, that are more harmful. I shouldn't say maybe. They are more harmful but in some areas. So, you know what I mean? Words have more connotation in certain parts of the globe than others. So
but Brainy,
try to remove it.
But let me take all the pop out of this in the sense of Brainy apologized, and I accepted his apology. I thought it was a sincere apology. I didn't think he didn't need to reach out to me because I didn't even hear what was said. But he
would have. Don't worry.
But you came up to me like a man and you said, "Hey, I'm sorry for what I said. I didn't mean it in any ill intent," and I accept his apology. So there is no. I understand, and I'm going to say this. I've seen you before, Brady, on a couple of the streams, and I know that sometimes loose lips sink ships, and your lips are extremely loose. So I know you say things that you don't mean sometimes, and it's
like
fine.
right now.
And it's fine. So like right now,
I was gonna say Busy's crack pipe in the side of saying how's your gas bill, which I guess is him trying to say I'm gaslighting and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they can. The reality is that and I want to say this. Then and we didn't talk about this, or maybe I did touch on this with you, but I've touched on it with a few others. That I actually personally think that it's almost a little offensive for them to try. It's offensive to me to them to call me racist when I'm not. But here's where I want to go with that. The reality is when I want to go a step further. When people like Unirock go out and try to create a narrative that someone who is not racist is racist, he's actually hurting that movement for people who need that to matter. The reality is that if he goes around and just accuses somebody being a racist, just like if he accused somebody being a pedophile or I don't want to say that word too much. The AI is quick to demonetize, but yeah. So if you go around and call people these things, and some people are those things, but people that aren't, you go ahead and use these words, and what you're doing is you're taking power away from the people who need these words to actually matter. And I actually think it's they need to look at themselves in the mirror. Oh, I've been referenced as it's a reference. Now it's a reference to Hitler. Well, Oh, okay. So Busy, you're the better person because your mind can immediately go to gassing the certain group of people, ethnic group of people. But because my mind didn't go there, I'm the racist. See, this is the mentality, right?
Well, two things. I don't
Well,
want
it's in the chats right now while we're talking.
No, yeah, but I understand people in the chat can say whatever they want, right? What two things? Number one, I understand that you've said some things, the N-word, whatever. That could be considered racist, accident. Right? Yeah, but no, hear me out.
It happened. It's there on my community chat. It happened. I'm not going to deny it.
It happened. So what, right? That's not who you are. You've told me that's not who you are. You've explained to me, and I accept, right? I have told you personally, I don't think you are a racist, but I also have said you have said some racist things, and someone to come to that conclusion.
Well, that comes across as racist.
Fair enough. Yeah, but coming, somebody coming to that conclusion, fair or not, maybe they would need to have that second interaction with you, like I did, to know that you're really sincere and not feeling that way. But to understand that people, not knowing you or not even having that interaction and just yelling at people at the side chat, they're picking with you, right? You're a racist because you said those things, which I don't believe is an accurate description of the person who I've met, the person I've interacted with a couple of days. And I think you should have solace in this, because if the person who's supposed to be offended is me, I'm telling you, I'm not offended. It's okay.
Yeah,
so if the white people in the chat make you more mad, or because they're more offended than the black guy who's you've made.
I said that in Twitter to somebody, and I got told it's not just about you; it's about all of them. That they're standing up for all of them for them.
But I don't think saying that it weakens the movement and all that stuff. You've even admitted things you've said could be taken in the wrong way, and I think
that is true too. But I would say the same thing about people who claim anything. It could be doesn't have to do with race. It could have to do with false rape claims, false.
Correct.
I mean, they all have the same kind of problem. If you when they go out and they do these things and they're found out to be lying or to be and they're not. Nobody's saying that they're all lying. When they are found to be lying, it weakens the argument for the people who need it to be powerful.
Well, unfortunately. Just to say, I don't think.
Okay, we'll just we can end it there.
I
know what you mean, because when we talked about this, Nate and I talked about this. We didn't want the stream to be about this. We wanted to touch on it. I was going to apologize to everybody out there so they hear me.
I just want to say personally, Brainy Beaver, I've spoken to him. We spoke for over an hour the other day. We've communicated even after that. I don't think a racist would go out their way and contact me and say, "Hey man, I said something." That just doesn't make any sense. So it is what it is.
It was like 4 in the morning. I just got off Little Red Stream. I'd say the DMs at like 3 in the morning.
But I do want you. But I do think it's something notable to be said, is that these claims weren't made just out of whole cloth, right? There was something that happened and it was taken out of, to where it didn't need to be. But now I think we can move past that. And you shouldn't have to worry about this, because if somebody does bring it to you, just say, Nate forgave me. Nate said it's okay. So
one thing I want to add to that, just to end it there, is that reflecting inwards, because these are chances to learn, right? So looking inwards, like today, talking to my wife, I heard myself say that word, the boy word there. Like I did it with my wife like 3 times a day. I was like, holy shit, I got to get that out of there now. Because then, of course, it's like a glass shattering in your face. You realize that you're using this word that in my area, Whiteville, there's nobody to offend, but then that doesn't mean that I'm not going to offend somebody else. And that's why it's fair. So yeah,
if
I meant Whiteville jokingly, like I'm in little old country Canada here, right?
So. But obviously words have different meanings in different contexts, right? If I say the word boy or something else in a different context, then it has a whole different if I'm in a kindergarten, for instance.
I was pointing at the screen and talking to you, a black gentleman. So it had the right eyes could see the right context. I agree.
Now, but so that's what I'm saying. I'm saying to dwell on this any further is just giving more credence to something that we've already kind of discussed and kind of get over. Now, I can't forgive you for saying anything to all black people, right? But I can say for myself, hey, this, people make mistakes. If you're saying it was a mistake, I believe you. I believe that you did make a mistake, and I believe it was accidental. And I think it's over, right? If you want to continue to argue with people in the chat, I can't help that. I can just say, from my end, it's over, and I accept your apology.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, one thing that they can do definitely is egg me on. I'll hyper focus on. I'll like that was like, Let's start Twitter.
Do I need to get a laser pointer for you, Brainy?
I am definitely the cat chasing laser pointer. But anyways, okay. So Johnny, so now that we got that out of the way, I wanted to address that right off the bat. I wanted to get that out of the way and move forward. So let's talk about what we want to talk about. I don't know if you guys pre-talked ahead of time a little bit or
we compared some notes. Absolutely.
Okay. I'll let you guys run the show. I'm going to sit here and just be a third party and poke in when I want to.
Poke when you want, yeah.
Well, you guys poke me too.
Whoa.
Well,
I'm not into beavers. Just saying.
See now we've got
that came out bad.
I'm not into beavers. Okay, well, Johnny, we gotta talk.
I'm not into the animals. Just stuff.
Furries. That's the fun ones.
That's the fun ones. Yeah. All right. So it's no secret that I've been covering the Shawn Hufford situation, and of course, obviously, Nate the lawyer. You have done extensive research into this topic. You released a video. Was it 2 weeks ago? About a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, give or take?
I think about a week ago, yeah.
Yeah. And you went over some of the finer points of the presented evidence, some stuff that I hadn't had the opportunity to really get a deep dive into. So that being said, where are you with this whole Shawn Hufford situation?
Well, I'll start just so I can give everybody a little background. My name is Nate the lawyer. I'm a lawyer. A lot of people, question my credentials, but I'm an actual lawyer. I'm, licensed. Most of the people in the chat know I'm licensed in my real name and all that stuff. But if you need to know, that's who I am. I was a prosecutor. I was a criminal investigator for a while. I've investigated many scams, and when this first appeared, just so everybody knows my relationship with Shawn Hufford. Before this, I thought Shawn Hufford was a stand-up guy. I'm just gonna straight up say it. There was one time when me and Shawn had an interaction where he made a mistake about something I'd said on one of my live streams, and he then went and said something negative about me on one of his videos. Then he found that he made the mistake, and Shawn Hufford, the Shawn Hufford I'm talking about, contacted me, right, and said, "Hey, Nate, I said this thing about you on your live stream, about you on this thing that was wrong about you on the live stream. And I'm just letting you know I was wrong. I didn't watch your thing all the way. And I want to apologize to you for saying it and for misleading people. And on top of that, I'm going to do a retraction video, which he did do the next day to let everybody know that I was incorrect." So that's the Shawn Hufford I know. Somebody who was analytical, somebody who was always thinking, somebody who was in that type of person. So when this first came up that Shawn may have been scamming the community, I just didn't believe it. I thought it was just, I thought it may have been, you have a fundraiser, maybe you take $20, $30 and spend it on some beer or something like that. I thought it was like something like that. I didn't think it was this. And obviously my relationship with Red's Rhetoric, I know Red's Rhetoric, from, I've met him in real life. We've hung out, all that type of stuff. So I know him. And to be fair, I don't think Red's Rhetoric is a scammer either, right? God doesn't like me. I don't like him, but I wouldn't say he was a scammer, right? Before all this. So I would never say that about them. I would say they're pieces of shit, but I wouldn't say that they were doing anything like this. That just, and you didn't really ever hear me say anything like that. So with this, it first came to me from Unirock because I'm friends with Unirock. It's funny because I always say I'm friends with people with Unirock and I'm friends with people who hate Unirock. So it's a weird little space to be in. And they were going through these fundraisers because these fundraisers were always an issue. We always knew these fundraisers were an issue because they were going through PayPal. Nobody really knew how much was collected. It was just like, hey, you got all this money and we just collected them. And, it got up to like maybe $80,000 that was collected. So everybody was like, well, this just needs to be more transparency, especially if you're going to be doing this stuff. Then the Shawn Hufford thing came up and someone, I'm not sure who, found that there was a Shawn Hufford. We didn't know if this was our Shawn Hufford, but there was a Shawn Hufford who had an eviction around the time that Shawn had the fundraiser. So that was found out. And then the documents that were just available on the website was found. And then it was kind of like, okay, let's give people these documents to show them that Shawn supposedly paid off the mortgage, the rent, and but he still has an eviction for that same apartment.
You're talking about documents found on the Indiana was it the
state's website? Yes,
state's website, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
the ones that you can just download, but
right,
those documents,
public access for anybody.
But those documents didn't go into detail on the eviction. So then
Right.
it was like this whole spin about, well, the eviction was really for something else. It wasn't really, as Red said, well, the eviction was for something else. The landlord made a mistake, because Shawn had said the landlord made a mistake at one point in time. So it was like this whole big thing. So so I was approached by Negative Exponent and Unirock, and they said, well, listen, we have this, we know this guy didn't pay this rent. We know they're just lying. Is there any way that we can actually figure it out from these documents? So they wanted me to kind of interpret the documents for them. So I said, well, these documents are not going to really say what you want them to say. What you need to do is call the clerk of the court and get the complaint and get all the actual backup documents. You should just be able to pay a fee for that, because they got to file it with the clerk of the court. So as soon as I told them that, Unirock was like, tomorrow we're going to go call the court and see what happens. Negative Exponent got up that morning, called the clerk, and they emailed them the documents. That was the the lease, all the documents that they had. So they was all there. And that was the bomb. We found that, there was the buyout clause. We found the rent was, they said was, we found that the lease didn't even start till September. So all of that was there. And that's kind of how I got introduced to it. It was, I got to give credit to where it's credit. It was all Unirock and Negative Exponents. They were the ones who started it, and they just came to me to try to see what the documents actually said, and if we can get the full documents. And that's how I got involved.
So we were able to secure the full documents, the documentation and everything. So this is kind of just a basic background, real quick, to kind of catch everybody up. I'm sure everybody is well ahead of where we are, but due diligence to find out how your involvement helped the still ongoing investigation, because there are a lot of holes in Shawn Hufford's story that I think need to be filled, and I think need to be filled not just for the fact that I want them filled, but I think people in the community who feel that they have been wronged, and who rightfully so feel they've been wronged by this situation, want those holes filled. So you got involved looking at these documents, and it was crystal clear that he was evicted because he hadn't paid rent.
Yes. Well, just to be clear, they had also done their due diligence before this. So Negative Exponent and Unirock, they both called, I believe it was the management company. And, I know Shawn's going to say they didn't pretend. They had said that, hey, somebody had raised money, and the management company had said, no, Shawn didn't pay us. So they had already known the answer, that Shawn didn't pay. But it was now trying to show everybody else that Shawn didn't pay. And that's why they needed the documents.
So they had already gotten confirmation from the landlord. The landlord released that information they just said, hey, this is what happened. It was non-payment.
Yeah.
All right. So then we got the documentation that showed that it was non-payment of rent.
Yes.
So that kind of fast forwards us. We're skipping out a whole lot of backstory here, because I'm sure everybody here has, they were kind of there for it. I entered into this community kind of as an outsider right as this whole thing was started, right as I want to say January, right before, at the end of December, January of last year, right as this whole business was going on, at the tail end of the fundraiser. So I kind of heard about some things that were going on. Team Skeptic brought some information to my attention on his first appearance, saying, hey, this is whatever. So I kind of caught wind of it back then, but I had no idea how deep this thing went, especially in the community, until I started looking into it. And there are a lot of people that are, again, rightfully so, very upset about how this whole thing played out. When you have somebody like Shawn who stands up and says, he purports himself to be this very analytical person, somebody who sits down and can look at a flat earther's argument, for instance, and say, well, here's, logically, this is where you're wrong, and this is why you're wrong here, and so on and so forth. To make so many illogical missteps, we'll call them, for the sake of not being too much of a jackass or a jerk, but to make so many logical missteps just seems completely out of character. And even trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, I personally can't see how someone of such, brain power can make these logical errors that just don't. I don't know very many people who sign a contract, any contract, and don't at least somewhat know what's going on with the contract, especially a lease.
Oh yeah. One thing the thing about this story is there seem to be two aspects to it. Why Shawn needed the money and versus how Shawn spent the money.
Right.
And I hope and let me clarify in the sense. When Shawn asked for the money, there are certain things that we have to try to figure out, what did he know at that time, right? Because that's when you're talking about things are not accurate, right? What did he know at the time, or what would a reasonable person would have known? Like a reasonable person trying to pay off their lease would go to the management company. Hey, how am I going to get out this lease? So then you would say, well, what's Shawn's excuse for not going to that, right? Not doing the lease. Well, Shawn only had 10 days left on the lease. Well, what's his excuse for not knowing he only had 10 days on the lease? And when you go through just those simple questions, you ask two questions. You ask, well, what did Shawn do? And what would a reasonable person do? Right? What would somebody in Shawn's position, a reasonable person, do? And what his excuses, what the excuses that he put forward, convince you that it was either negligence or it was intentional, right? Because people can make mistakes. Let's say if it was in November,
Well,
let's say if it's October.
yeah, so I can understand why he would think that because he did sign a lease renewal. So I mean I could, if that were the only mistake or the only logical error made here, right?
Yes.
If it were just the fact that, because he did sign a lease, he did sign a lease extension, so I can understand why he would think that he was still due for the rest of that lease. But then to not look at the lease, to not read that lease, that buyout clause specifically that you signed, that you read, that's a big one.
Well, but let's go back to all right. So we would all agree that just talking to the management company would have cleared this up. They'd be like, yeah, there's a buyout clause, read your lease. Even giving him the benefit of the doubt that most people don't read the lease, right?
Right.
But I would say this: if I'm asking you guys, the community, to pay off my lease, the least I can do is read it, right? The least I can do is investigate. So
have a real understanding. Yeah, absolutely.
So before I even ask you for the money, I should have easily made a phone call to the man. Hey, listen, how do I get out this lease? Now, Shawn has given you the reason why he didn't do that. He says because he had a neighbor who lost his job, and when he told the management company he lost his job, they evicted him. But that to me makes no sense. And the reason why that makes no sense, that absolutely makes no sense. The reason why is he didn't have to tell the management company he lost his job. He was just calling them to ask him, hey, if I wanted to get out the lease, what's the ways to do it, right? That's all he's calling the credit. He's not calling them saying, I lost my job, don't kick me out. He's calling them and saying,
hey, I mean, there's so many different things you could call it. Hey, I got a job offer in Florida. How can I get out of this lease?
Yeah, but you don't even have to tell them that, right? You can
just
say,
exactly.
Hey,
well, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying here. If it's just so many things that this one doesn't add up. There's no way that you don't go to the lease as a responsible human being. Even if you're not asking for help to pay the damn thing, right? I mean, I had a situation come up, almost 2 years ago where I had to move. I had to break a lease. What's the first thing I did? I went to the goddamn lease. How can I get out of this lease? What legal ways do I get out of this lease? I also spoke to an attorney about it.
And it just makes sense.
Right. Those seem like logical steps that any person it just
the
so
thing
many
is
holes
that
in the story.
Sometimes we are afraid to call our own a spade, right?
Brainy, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry.
Brainy, you're muted.
All I was going to say is, and you can look at somebody like me, like I've rented before, but I've not had as much experience in a renting situation as other people. So, somebody like me, if I don't think about it much and somebody says, oh yeah, I had to buy it out, I might just eat up his story just because to me, I've never dealt with that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And if it's not something you're used to dealing with, then you might just, and that's complacency. That doesn't make it right. But that's kind of some of the reason why sometimes, if you're not, and I never donated. So to me, it was, for me, it's something I never even thought about. Right. Cause if I'm not going to give money to it and I'm not, in there and stuff like that, then really for me, it was just, I just assumed these things were truthful. Right. I assumed that the people I was listening to were right.
Well, you're assuming they're truthful because the person who's telling it to you. This is Shawn Hufford. Shawn Hufford was the one that said if you get more money than a GoFundMe, like if the GoFundMe for 1,000, you get 1,001, you take the $1. He said you were a scammer, right? That's Shawn Hufford. Shawn Hufford said those people were scammers. But now, so with this, it's not about what the person is. It's less about the reasonable person in some instances and more about Shawn, because we know who Shawn is. And And if people just understand, this is Shawn saying these things that are rational, logical. And I think that really should drive it home for people that there's more here than just some, oh my God, I didn't know what my lease was. I didn't know how much my rent was. I didn't know how many months. Like really, like, there's but so much that you can, pee on me and tell me it's rent. You know what I mean?
See, like this right here, Anon in the comments, he said I was just gonna say to people, was it determined the total amount collected in all accounts for these fundraisers? But when you say these fundraisers, was it? Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Was it not just the one fundraiser primarily that we're discussing at this point? Because the other ones, there was even for like the whole idea that Boole's like I don't even want to. That can't even be talked about. There was receipts presented. Literally his family told Uni to F off live on and yeah, okay, maybe that came from Reds, but. There's receipts for all that, and there's still still don't believe.
So there was the original $10,000 fundraiser that, according to Shawn, came up short, and then I think it was March or February.
I think it was like 7,000 they got or something, 70-something hundred or
7,450. I think is what
which
they
is
said.
a butt ton of money. Don't get me wrong. So when I say
more money than he needed, more money than he needed to be able to get out of his legally without having any evictions or any negative credit reporting, any of that stuff. More could have moved him to Florida, or even if hey, guys, look, the thing with Florida fell through. I'm going to move Jersey because I have something else lined up over there. I'm pretty sure everybody would have been cool with that too. Yet, excuse me, there was more than enough money in that one. But after this happened, there was another fundraiser held by Cy Strickling that Hufford says he had no idea when he was pissed off when he found out about it, but he didn't return the money. That's how pissed off he was.
Yeah. So I
remember talking about that one. Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, and I feel bad, but I think we've gone through this a couple of times. Like, I think Kyle Curtis was in the thing. We've gone through this with Kyle Curtis, with the court documents, and we're going through this again on the other side. And I think if people we need to stop looking at it as it seems like everybody's trying to understand what happened instead of trying to just kind of go over what happened and say, well, this actually happened. Does this make sense? And I understand the connection with Shawn trying to say, well, how would Shawn do something? This makes sense for him not knowing. And I think that sometimes, would you hold someone else's feet to the fire the same? Would you give someone who's just right off the street this same credibility? Like, hey, because we know for a fact that Shawn is better than this, right? This Shawn is not what we expect. We expect it in the logical thinking Shawn. If this was just some regular person on the street, I can give them all that, but not Shawn, not the guy, not the flat earth debunking Shawn that I know. Matter of fact, he would probably be on the stream laughing if this was somebody else, right? What's going on with you guys? But going back to the timeline now, I think the timeline here is important because the first thing that when even doing my video, I didn't mention this. The first thing that kind of raised my antennas, he says he spoke to a manager in February, and on your stream when you had the thing, he said he never talked to that person again after that. So
he did say that his contact was Reds with that job. Going back and thinking about it, he did mention that because it was at Red's company, so he would speak with Reds about this job, which presents a different hole in the story altogether.
Because this is what because I'm going through your stream. I remember he said he talked to the manager in February and he'd had a job, and then he said that he didn't talk to the person again. And then I think you guys were pushing him, he said, he had to move in New Jersey. And his excuse is that Reds had moved, so he didn't have the job, and that he didn't know if Reds even still worked there. And my reaction to that is, you speak to Reds every day. Why couldn't you say, hey, Reds, are you still working at the place? Hey, Reds, since you're moving, where are you moving to? Is it close to the place where I'm going to get the job? He just kind of act like those were open questions that weren't answered. That's why he had to move to New Jersey. Now, I know that it went through so quickly because I understand everybody was trying to not pile on. But I think if you stop and think, like, well, hold on. You speak to Reds every day. If Reds is telling you move, that's the next question. Well, is it close to that job? Are you still working at the job? Do I even still have that job? He couldn't answer any of those questions.
Yeah,
and that was the whole basis of the fundraiser.
Right. So he pushed that narrative that it was, that, well, Reds, I wasn't sure if I was going to have the same place because Reds was kind of backing off, and I felt like Reds this and I felt like Reds that. I asked Reds straight up, "Hey, did you tell Shawn Hufford, or did you make any kind of insinuations that Shawn Hufford wouldn't have a place to stay?" Reds won't answer any questions that I ask him, and that's fair. He doesn't have to.
Yeah.
But I mean, it seems. Yeah, look, if a friend of mine came to me and I had a live stream to get them $10,000 to be able to move in with me because I had them a job, I don't think I'm going to be like, nah. Especially seeing as how that fundraiser came into question during this whole timeline. I would have been like, no, you can't move down here. No.
It would almost be a must. You got a
I was
must
like, hey,
move
look,
down here.
you kind of have to. You kind of have to because the couch that I said you could sleep on is still there. B, the job that I said you had or that you think you have is still there. C, that's kind of what we told everybody was going to happen.
But think about this though, and this is where I think my mind starts spinning, is because we know he didn't pay the landlord, right? I know he says he first when you guys questioned him, because I actually wrote it down. He said he paid 1 month because you were like you spent, because you said you spent none of that money on the landlord. He said no, that's not true. I spent 1 month, September, and then when you started talking farther and farther up, you started saying, he said, oh, September, October, and November. So those months were kind of added on. But when you first asked him, you took all that money? He said, no, I did pay September. And then I think you guys just kind of gave him the next 2 months, which is fine. But even if you're taking all that into account, he actually didn't spend the money on the rent. So you're talking about maybe $5,000-$6,000 at most that he had to go wherever he wanted to go. He could have still moved down with Reds. And if you have almost $6,000 moving down to Florida, you're telling me you can't get a hotel room? You can't tell me you can't get an apartment with that? Like really?
And that's the thing. A lot of people say, well, you can't sign a lease unless you have proof of income, blah blah blah. But if you walk in and you put down 6 months worth of rent, you can sign a lease. There's not an apartment complex. There's not an apartment complex out there that's going to turn down money in their hands. You've already paid the rent. I've got secured rent for 6 months. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and go find your job. Go do this.
Yeah.
Go do this, right? Yeah, and you can just tell them, hey, I'm making a move from Indiana. I'm coming out here to get a job. And plus, he already supposedly had a job lined up.
Right.
So it all worked out. But, think about it. All of a sudden, Reds, you can't sleep on Reds' couch, but you got $7,000. So it just
right.
That just didn't make sense to me. So I don't know what happened with this job. I don't know why he just didn't ask Reds. Well, what the hell's going on with the job when you speak to the guy every day? Again, that goes into
especially seeing as how
I don't know
where Reds works. This is Reds was hooking me. It's just I mean, the inconsistencies in this story tells me that there's a lot more that we don't know from Shawn Hufford. There's a lot that he's not. There's a lot of information that's missing.
Mm-hmm.
I made a comment in my second wrap up or my second follow up to this story my first follow up to the story where I said that I thought that Shawn made a mistake. And a lot of people wanted to pile on about that. And here's the thing. Shawn did make a mistake. Now, whether that mistake was a mistake in character or a mistake in judgment, that's up to you to decide. If you think it was a mistake in character, then I can totally understand where you're coming from on that. I kind of think it's a mistake in character as well. I think that he allowed his situation. He allowed himself to take advantage of his situation.
But the thing is that, one time I was investigating a theft, and it was like we had all this evidence eventually come forward, right? The person was using the credit card wrong and all this stuff. We had the credit cards, we had everything. And at the end of the day, I was telling my boss, I was like, but I'm not too sure. And my boss was like, it is what it is, So if everything that was built on a lie, it's a lie, then that's it. It's at that point, it's not for you to explain. It's for them to explain why. And I think at this point, the beginning of this story, and I'll challenge you to this. What part of this story at the beginning for this money came out to be true? What about this story was true? What about the reason for his money was true?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a solid question, and it's something that Shawn definitely can't answer truthfully. And looking at it outside looking in, of course, it's easy for me to judge this thing.
That's kind of all we can do, right? We can
Right.
only look at, because he came and gave answers, right? Like, for instance, about how the money was spent, right? Let's all talk about the Grubhub, right? How the money was spent. That's, it's like, what happened? Okay, you spend it.
Yeah, you can rack up a lot of money in Grubhub, sure, but why?
But
there was no need. There was no need for it. Okay, and I know where you're going with this because I saw the Twitter, I'm sure the tweet. I saw the tweet. And to me, that's irrelevant. I don't care if I don't care if he lived right next to a grocery store.
Mhm.
That's irrelevant because all the money that he was spending on Grubhub, he could have got himself a taxi to drive him to any fucking, grocery store, bought all of his groceries, and have that same taxi drive him back.
But the reason why I think it is important is because it shows the level of deception. As soon as he was asked the question, where's the nearest supermarket? 3 miles, too long to walk. Another, I walked 3 miles in the snow. I didn't have any money. And everybody started talking. Everybody was all talking about 3 miles is not wrong because you guys gave him the instant credibility. 3 miles. But a simple Google check, it's a 20-minute walk.
Well,
right?
For sure. Yeah. Again,
So,
I wasn't
deception.
live. I wasn't live,
you weren't checking them live. I'm not saying that as a criticism, but
for sure.
Instead of him saying, well, I'm not too sure, this, that's something I believe somebody honest would say, well, I'm not too sure how near the grocery store. It wasn't that far. He said it's 3 miles away, trying to make it as far as possible, right? And now we know there was like 4 within a 3 mile radius. So that's what I'm saying. When you add up the deception, when you add up the link, and when you add up the fact that it took him to when he was absolutely caught, what more do you need? He's absolutely caught. That was time to come. All right, I didn't spend the money.
Yeah, so that's one thing that kind of irritated me about the Reds rhetoric and Slice Barkane's response videos that, well, nobody would know anything as Shawn had said something. Bullshit. Shawn didn't say anything because he, felt this weight of guilt. He said something because he was fucking caught.
Yeah.
He said something because Team Skeptic went to him and said, look, here's all the evidence. I have it. I'm going to take it onto the plot hole and go live with it. You might want to come on there too. Sorry,
I lost something. No. I wasn't supposed to cut in there. My apologies.
That's all right.
It's okay.
I was just talking. I'll mute. I was just talking to myself.
Good. What you were saying, you're in mid thought before you got cut off.
Oh no! The whole thing that business about when Slice Barkane and Reds Rhetoric said, well, Shawn Hufford came out, or nobody would have known anything unless it was Shawn Hufford. Like bullshit. Everybody knew. Well, not everybody knew, but Team Skeptic said, hey, Shawn, boom, here it is. Here's the evidence. You better say something. You're in damage control now, so you better think about something. Otherwise, this is pretty much a one-sided story. And it's been outside of that, Shawn Hufford or Slice Reisling, they just will not answer questions when I ask questions. But again, perfectly fine. But if I only have one side of the information, that's all I can report on.
Well, but it's kind of like right now. I think you're at the point of what If you don't have a good answer to the question, why are you going to answer questions, right? Because this story tells itself. Right. The story more or less tells itself, right? You asked for money for a release that didn't start. You're asking, the rent wasn't even the same, all this stuff. So I think the story tells itself. And I think answering any public questions publicly could only really lead you into more trouble, to be honest with you. Right. Because that's essentially what you're talking about. He's not going to come out and say, oh, yeah, I had a fundraiser and took the money and spent it on personal needs. That puts people in jail, unfortunately. So,
yeah, but that's kind of what he did, though. That's kind of what he said. When he came out onto the stream, he came on the stream.
I was gonna say that defending of Grubhub in it. I was like, come on, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, he goes, and the way he did it too, and I hate to say, I'm not to beat up on him, but it was like feeding for 2. It's like, give me a break. Yeah. Almost every household out there is feeding for 2. The only thing left is 1 after that. Like, it's like, come on.
And then I even wrote this down from your stream when I thought it was so funny when you guys were like, it's 3 miles to the supermarket. and you guys were saying, no, 3 miles is nothing, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody even brought up
mile
Uber.
to school.
And then one person said, and then he responded, well, walking 3 miles back and forth, going to the supermarket every day. And that was obviously putting up another obstacle for your reason to have to go over. Oh, now we got to, every day he's got to do it every day. Who goes to the supermarket every day? And that's what I'm talking about. It's still the deception, even at this point in time where you're coming clean and you're saying, well, the reason why I wasn't going to super, because that makes me feel that there are more lies that we're uncovering. Like these are just stories to help us cover it up, because nobody's going to the supermarket every day.
None of us bought that at all. Like that's the thing that really annoyed me on, and I'm not going to reference a specific tweet, but you saw it today, Johnny. People saying like, accepting Shawn's apology. I'm like, excuse me. I said to every one of them every time, I said, if you can show me a quote or a image of me accepting his apology, like a clip of it, I said, I'll admit to it right then and there. But until you do that, what we did was not flog him and drag him in the streets right then and there. That's all we didn't do, because that stream shut off and we literally sat there and went, what a pile of shit. And the thing that I said to people is I said, like, the reality is that that's called tact. That just because we didn't feel like bludgeoning him right there, like figuratively on stream and dragging his guts out in front of everybody, that doesn't mean that we believed a word he said. And I'm going to tell you right now, when he started excusing the Grubhub thing, even if there was a sliver of hope left for him, it was fucking gone for me, because that whole eating for two, he even stopped you. He paused, he went, feeding for two. I got kids growing upstairs. I got a wife. If I Grubhub, somebody said to me in DMs, they said, no way you could eat that much money in Grubhub. I said, oh, you could 3 meals a day plus snacks, multiple. Oh, you know what? I forgot to get a burger. You know what? We'll just call Grubhub again and get another fucking burger coming. And you and I both know you will eat hundreds of dollars a week you'll eat a person's monthly groceries in a week on Grubhub. It's true. And then it's like, we even said to him, we said, an Uber, you only need to take that Uber once that whole week. It costs you $10, maybe.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
But the response to that was, it's 2020 hindsight. It's like, no, it's not 2020 hindsight.
Yes,
that's what reasonable people would do when you don't have any money. And it gets even worse, because again, when we talk about deception, it's not about it's about what happened. So when it was like, well, show us the receipt.
Real quick.
First,
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I want to address this right here. It says, why didn't y'all humiliate Shawn like the Flat Earth folks? First and foremost, I don't go out of my way to, quote, humiliate people. I might poke a little bit of fun at Flat Earthers from time to time on scripted videos. However, when I invite people on to a stream to ask them their point of view, ask them their train of thought, ask them for their input on a situation, I'm not bringing them on to publicly flog them. This is what we call integrity and honesty. I'm not going to tell somebody, hey, come on the stream and tell your show, and then I'm just going to go beat them up. No, that's bullshit. That's a horseshit tactic. And anybody who does that, they can go kick rocks. I don't do that here. If I invite you on, it's because I'm going to give you an honest and legitimate chance to give your side of the story. Now, when I find holes in that story, I will pick it apart and I will ask you tough questions, but I'm not here to humiliate anybody. So
in their defense, they may be talking about people like FDFE and even people like me, where, I mean, I don't think the closest I've ever come to what would be considered humiliating somebody might be that gentleman in the early days of my channel who perhaps had some mental illness problems, which, after the fact, it was like, yeah, in retrospect, maybe that guy is actually mentally ill and not just an idiot, kind of thing. But beyond somebody like that, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that I humiliate them. I think they humiliate themselves when they make some of the claims they make and they place it on the internet and try to say it's factual and then try to train others the same thing. So I like to make fun of them. That's never going to change. I like to, using video and green screens and things like that, I like to be satirical. It's at first I started trying to debunk. I do like debunking when things are debunkable, but you know what? Their arguments went in a circle so long. I just got so tired of trying to debunk it that I just decided I was going to, CC driving down the road is going to pretend he hit me. And that's the one where I'm scraping down the back window of the car and trying to look over the top. Just things like that. I have a great time. Like if I'm laughing when I'm editing my video, then I know it's a great video. Because if I'm laughing, I'm my worst critic when I'm making my own videos. And then I know it's going to be good.
And to answer this question, would you invite Shawn or Red Zone? Absolutely. I would invite them on to give their side of the story. Again, it's not going to be, to talk, to have their. I don't like one-sided stories because that seems like a hit piece, and it's not what I'm about. I want to give everybody their fair due. Now, if I say, "Hey, look, this is going to happen," and you ignore it and don't respond, then I'm, it's going to happen one way or the next. So
I'm gonna tell you right now, Johnny, you're gonna be a big channel, just so you know. I'm letting you know this right now. No,
Yeah,
I'm letting you know right now. Like, this is a good format. You got a good show going on here. Even the people in the chat, you got people like Tanner there saying this is why I membered Plot Hole. It's good for refreshing change and breath of fresh air. And I agree with that. I just wanted to say that right now.
No,
I enjoy listening to you. I enjoy being here. Sorry, go ahead, Nate.
No, definitely. I even mentioned that to you earlier. This channel is going to be big.
Yeah,
I do want to say too is that when talking about the Shawn Hufford situation, we're talking about his responses in response to questions and the facts, right? Matter of fact, I at the beginning said I believe Shawn was a good person, but I'm going over what he did and just the facts. Like, one of the issues that I think, another big issue that came up to me was the bank account issue, right? First, he specifically said that the bank account was closed automatically. Then we found that it wasn't, because Inside Strickland says no, the ex closed it particularly. And then he went and said, well, he couldn't get the receipt because at first he paid the rent with a check from the account. Then was like, oh, I could go get the check. Then the bank account was closed, not knowing that you can go to a bank even after your account is closed for like 5-6 years and
5 years minimum. Federal law,
because they need to keep records like everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, it'll cost you $5 to $10 just to get to have them printed out. Yeah.
So that's the one. So then when that happened, then it became not a check, but it became a money order, right? Yep. So then we go from check to money order. That should be red flags for everybody. Okay, but you didn't pay with a check, now you pay with a money order. Then it was like, okay, well, let's go to the management company and get the receipt. Now it's like, well, they can't give me a receipt. It's just like, and at that point in time, really?
Yeah.
Like, really? At that point in time, it's kind of like, are we really at the level where we're going to believe that he had a receipt in the dresser drawer with the right next to the lease, happened to be right next to the lease, and it was gone? It was lost.
Now
is that really believable?
No, of course not. And that whole business, I'm sorry. The idea that, oh, well, it was a check. No, it was a money order and we took cash out of the bank. Okay, cool. Show me that withdrawal. Show me the cash withdrawal for $74.50 to buy that money order. Oh, you can't, because it didn't happen. That whole thing, that it's just, my goodness, come on. And here's a bit of information that I don't know if anybody caught this on Fight the Flat Earth stream when he talked about the situation. I was told this in confidence, but I can speak about it now because FTFE made it public. Reds went to Hufford and said, hey, all you got to do is go get this information. And Shawn said, I can't afford to get down there. And Red said, we'll pay for it. And Hufford said, no. At that point, this is the only place in where I will call Red's actions into question, because I have no evidence otherwise. And that's important, all you fucking trolls. Evidence is important, you fucking trolls. I have no evidence outside of that. Now, I can draw a lot of conclusions there that Reds should have said, hey, why? That should have been, if at nothing else, no point else in the whole situation, Reds didn't stop to think, man, something's not on the up and up here. That moment should have been the moment where he said, okay, I really need to figure out what's going on here, because something is not right. I'm telling him I'll pay him to go get the information. I need him to do this because people are calling me into question, and he's refusing to do it.
Yeah, that just again, it just didn't seem right, because it's the thing with Reds is that I don't know if he's involved, but I can't exclude him from not being involved. And it's a damning position to be in, because on one end, I have no evidence that he knew about any of this stuff. I have absolutely no evidence of that, right? Mm-hmm. But I do have a lot of questions about what he knew and what he knew about it. Number one, he knew that Shawn moved in with his girlfriend, and he knew that Shawn, well, he knew a lot actually going into this, right? He knew that Shawn didn't. He knew that Shawn wasn't moving in with him. He knew that that job didn't materialize wherever it was supposed to be at before that. So the question would have been for me, like, if he only raised enough money, $7,480 to pay the rent, he had no job. Then how the hell is he flying out to meet Sly Strickling? How the hell is he doing all this stuff? Right? Wouldn't a reasonable person, a friend who knows that you only made enough to pay the rent, you told me you paid the rent, but you're flying around the country to meet this person?
Exactly. There's
what? Huh? Like, oh, would you get that money to do that? You're not working. I know how I know you're not working because you told me you're not working, right? That was the reason why you're going to come down here to me.
Right.
Just didn't make any sense. And then to see Shawn Hufford, now this is something I'm not sure about. And again, this is, I'm not making an allegation, but these are just the facts that were presented. Shawn Hufford left a post under, there was a I think Trolls versus Trolls, or one of them. They did a very interesting video about Shawn Hufford's lying. This is about a year ago, right after the fundraiser. Shawn then left a message under that, right? Because again, this is the Unironic people going and scourging the internet for all these things, but they found this post from Shawn. And it was I believe it was in October or November, one of the 2 months. And in that post, he was thanking people. Now, in that post, he did a couple of things. Number one, he still claimed the fundraiser didn't make what it was supposed to have made, right? He's like, oh, the fundraiser didn't reach its goal. Again, making the community feel bad that, oh my God, the fundraiser didn't reach the $10,000 goal. And because of this, Reds had to cover some money. So he got a loan from Reds, and he said, and it had been paid back. Now that was in October, November. And then in December, FTFE, I can say this publicly now, he actually sent me Reds bank statements, but they were from December forward. And those bank transactions showed that Reds had sent Shawn a $500 loan in December, right, for all this. So, right. But the thing is that now it becomes, who do you believe? Because Shawn specifically said that he paid Red a loan back before that, and they haven't shown me, and I haven't seen any of the bank transactions or any of the records for that time. I've seen it from going forward. So now I don't know if what Shawn Hufford said was true, of him paying back a loan to Reds. So I would need to see those documents to clear Reds. If I can see those and say there was no transaction from Shawn to him and he got nothing, that's fine. But now since Shawn has said it, and now we have all these questions, that's why I can't eliminate Reds from this situation until I know for a fact if Shawn paid him back for a loan in November, because Shawn said it. Now Shawn's a liar. We can also say Shawn's a liar. Who knows? Why should we believe Shawn? But I think this is important.
Well, we
Shawn is saying I gave this person money. Of course, we
believe Shawn.
Yeah.
We can believe Shawn, right? And yeah, there are little things here that don't add up, but none of them is there's no smoking gun in the whole Reds part.
No,
right?
No.
So it's very, very cautious in how I word when I talk about this situation, that I question Red's involvement in this, or at least his lack of involvement, if he was completely unaware of what Shawn was doing, right? Let's say Red's rhetoric is on the up and up. We'll just agree that Reds did everything he was supposed to do, or at least he did everything he said he did, and he was unaware of any misappropriations or scams or fraud or whatever. That's almost grossly negligent.
Well, at a point is like, how could he not know, right?
Yeah,
at a point, again, you get to how do you not know?
Especially after you go to your friend and you say, "Hey, friend, I did this thing for you that people are saying was a fraud. You can get this whole thing cleared up. You can get my name cleared up, your name cleared up, and everyone else's name cleared up who was involved with this. I'll pay for you to do that." And you're telling me no?
He should have been ringing the alarm bells then. And I also think, and I also think that when you're talking about just the fact that this was, and I do feel sorry for Reds in a sense, because in one instance, he could, I think, avoided a lot of this pain and suffering if he didn't go down with the ship as what he did. He was going around, even after the document started leaking, he started coming out saying things like, I know this for a fact. I was on Shawn. I can confirm all this. And those are damning statements because now you're telling
Did not
people,
age very well.
Yeah, you're telling people that this wasn't a scam, that we know for that even when the court documents started coming out, they went as far as to say the management company, the landlord was wrong, right? It evicted him. It was a false eviction. It was a clerical error. Now, if you're saying all that and you really don't know to just start again, because those things were made up, right? The clerical error thing was made up. Those all things were just made up out of things. Now we know they were whole cloth. Did he know that they were made up? Did he believe Shawn after Shawn said all these things? That he's looking at documents and saying that. So there's so much involved with Reds that I think that, honestly, Shawn comes out and says Reds wasn't involved. The only thing that's going to convince me is, I got to see the bank statement. Let me see the September and October to make sure if it's clean, then now he doesn't have to show them to me. But that's what I would have to see to convince me that he wasn't involved.
I would like to see everything from before a month before the fundraiser until probably within the last maybe 90 days.
Yeah.
And even then, look, I was part of a fundraiser for the Trevor Project. The Four Beardsmen did a 24-hour live stream. And we took in PayPal donations and we turned around and donated all that to the Trevor Project. Mm-hmm. We have receipts. I have copy. I took a picture, a screenshot of my PayPal account, what the balance was before we started, and I sent that to all the other beardsmen. And then I showed them what my bank account, what the statement was after. Right, it has everything. There was all the transactions that came in with no transactions going out except the one to the Trevor Project. That just, to me, I wasn't even thinking. Right, I wasn't even thinking, hey, somebody might accuse me of being a fraud. It was just,
how could you not now though?
Well, now I'd be very difficult to be involved in any kind of fundraiser or whatever. But even still, it's just, to me, I thought it was a no-brainer. Like, that's what you just do. That way, it's easy. There's no question.
Well, I think we would be remiss if we didn't give some suggestions on how that we should be moving forward with fundraising.
And I think that's what I really want to make this more about, is we rectify this where we can still feel safe in holding fundraisers for people who need a fundraiser.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that bugged me is that if like if a person wanted to run a fundraiser for something legitimate and noble, it's like it's so stained now that, because like originally my Patreon had, like, in its description when I started my channel, because I thought it was really neat that people were doing fundraisers and using these little platforms they were building for some good, but then. And it said right in the description, you could probably Wayback Machine. I don't know how any of that works, but it said right in my description that, like, I want to try to run some, maybe some charity fundraisers at times and stuff like that. That literally got removed from the description. I deleted that out of my Patreon description long ago. It's been gone since once this all became some sort of controversy, it just disappeared, because the idea at that point of running a charity fundraiser was like smoked beyond, like, you couldn't even. It was like, don't even try it, because it'll just be all fraudulent, even if it's not.
Hey, I just responded to your private chat. I didn't see it, but yeah, sure, I'm fine.
Oh yeah, that was just me saying.
I was like, oh no, I didn't see it.
Hello,
Joe, what's going on?
Hey. Good to see everybody.
Brought cooked crow with him though. Watch out.
Yeah.
Watch out. I saw the chats. I saw you cooking that crow and getting it ready. Portions of that bitch.
Lots of it. Well, I mean, I have good reason for feeling this way. You don't eat crow. You don't say you eat crow when someone just makes a mistake. You say you eat crow when somebody goes out of their way to defend themselves or defend other people when it's so obvious that they're going to be wrong. And a lot of people forget this. All right, and I want to point this out. I'm not here to down talk Reds. I did my own down talking of Reds on my stream. I moved on from that. I'm doing my own thing. So good luck to all of those guys in their own direction. They take themselves. That's not what I'm here for, but I am going to speak on facts. And the facts were this right here. On my Whiskey Wednesday, I called I called out Reds for the person who I thought he was, that I thought he was. I called out Shawn for the fundraiser. I did both of those in the same stream. And a lot of people correlate the two to mean that I was asserting that Reds was directly responsible for Shawn's actions, which was not the case. I was just drunk and I was calling out people as I saw fit. I saw fit to call out Shawn. I saw fit to call out Reds. I agree with you, Nate. They're trollish people. You know, to them, it's not about any kind of science or truth or explaining to people anything. It's turned so much more into being this very vitriolic and hateful group of people. And it's been my pleasure to dissociate with them. So when I called Reds out for what I believed him to be wrong about doing, I also called Shawn. So I also called out Shawn. But Reds, he came on and defended Shawn. The very next day, he put out an unlisted video, which I found to be super hypocritical, right? If you want to hold these opinions about me and you want to hold these opinions about Shawn, when we all know now, looking back, that Red should have had the wherewithal to use critical thinking and see that Shawn was lying to not just him, but everybody else. There's no excuse for ignorance when ignorance is not validated by truly being ignorant. He prides himself on being a critical thinker. This took very little critical thinking to come to an accurate conclusion without being presented the evidence. Nobody said you had to believe it, but you can also make an assumption as to what you believe the truth is going to be prior to knowing all the facts. That you can do, and you're more than welcome to be wrong. But a logical person, someone who has some semblance of critical thinking, would come to this conclusion. You know, and Nate, you're a lawyer. You can speak from a law term. If presented with this and someone said, here, let's get to just the first part of physical evidence that came out. And that was the part where Shawn, where everybody was being presented with the very easily accessible via the internet state of Indiana, documents from the state of Indiana Supreme Court. All right, so you're given these documents as a lawyer, and someone comes to you and says, "How can this happen if this also happened? How can someone have a $4,000 judgment against or $4,000 or $2,000?
Originally 65 and some change for I think it was 7 months, right?
Originally, I say 4,000 because originally my first inclination when I saw those numbers was that each one of them was required to pay the 2,000. But then after getting the other documents, I saw more that it's actually 2,000 that's owed. Both of them owe it, but if one person pays off 1,000, that knocks off 1,000 from the other person's debt.
It's called just to be clear, it's called joint and several liability. Some states have this, and what joint and several liability is that the two people owe the $2,000, but the company can collect it from either one of them. So it can go to Shawn and collect the $2,000, and then Shawn would have to actually sue his partner for the other $1,000.
Yeah. So if there's a judgment out against me and I, Team Skeptic and I, we're partners, by the way, everybody. I just want everybody to know that team and I are partners. It's time we stopped hiding our feelings. I'm sorry, Brainy. I just don't have any time for the beaver anymore.
No, you shouldn't be apologizing for you not giving him time. He didn't give a shit about your time. You should see the DMs he sends me. It's about a 35-1 ratio.
It's because I hit enter every time my thought process ends, which is 5 words.
Can you put a post-it note on your computer that says if you're about to message Team Skeptic to take your pills
like a minute and
wait
them together.
30 minutes for them to kick in, then send me one fully thought out message, and I will address the one message.
In my defense, if I need to criticize you and your Discord skills, it's like, hey, bro, get back to me as soon as you get this, and then for 2 days, like, hey, are you there? Nothing.
I'm a busy motherfucking man, dude. I'm so sorry. But anyway, okay, so back to what we were talking about. Yeah. I took this to another lawyer who I'm not going to name the person because I don't want to bring him into this mess. But I went to another lawyer and I asked him, I said, what would be the situation? What would have to happen for a person to pay 10 months of rent in advance? Okay, because at the time he was claiming he paid the 10 months in advance. Yeah. So I said, what would have to happen to pay the 10 months in advance and then 4 months later get sued for $4,000 is what I told him, but we now know it's $2,000. So to also get sued of $2,000. And it took him a minute to come up. He said, well, you would have to have a really large arrearment, that not just where all the debt was covered by the rent, but also on top of that, he's already done the move out. That's already been cleared. And there's still over $2,000 still owed to the apartment complex by Shawn Hufford, which would mean that would have to be owed prior to us running that fundraiser, because we ran the fundraiser to pay for the rent. So if everything was paid for and everything was good and done, then he should have had the only way for him to have that judgment against him would be to have had another $2,000 of damages or previous rent owned or something that he hadn't accounted for when paying the $74.50, which then I said, well, that doesn't make sense, because if he had a previous money owed, then when he paid the 10 months of rent off, I know how landlords work, and especially corporate landlords like apartment complexes, they're not going to go, okay, we're going to take this 10 months for the next 10 months. Don't forget about the previous 3 months that you owe us. So what they're going to do is they're going to put that towards the 3 months and then pay off 7 months, in advance, which then presents a problem as to why would they have evicted him? If he paid them 10 months in advance, then he has every right to come back to that place and make any repairs, change out anything that he has. That's his right to do that. So if they were not giving him that right, they would have had to refund him the money, because they're depriving him of that right. And then the money they're refunding him would have had to gone to the arrearment. So it just doesn't make sense no matter which way you look at it, unless you're illogical.
Well, and there's also a deposit that comes into play, is there not, as well?
Yeah, well, the deposit was like $100, but
it's a lot more.
But just to be clear, everything we're talking about that he said or he could have done is all irrelevant, right? Because there was a $1,500. The buyout clause was less than 2 months worth of rent, right?
It was exactly 2 months rent, right? So $750, we'll say
about that.
And you pick up the phone call, and the thing about any scam is that the simple questions always get complex answers that make no sense. And the simple question that I think Team asked it was, why didn't you just call the landlord, right? Why didn't you just call them, right?
Yeah.
And his response was, again, let's get complicated. My next door neighbor lost his job, went to the landlord, and they evicted him that same week. I thought the follow-up was an obvious follow-up. What the hell? You didn't even answer my question, right? Yeah. What the hell does it have to do with my question, right? I didn't tell you why didn't you go tell the landlord you didn't have a job? I asked you, why did you go to ask the landlord how to get out of the lease? That's a simple. You could have emailed that to them, right? Hey, how can we get out the lease? And they would have said it's $1,500. So I'm just saying, if anyone was to get to it again, let's not forget they're asking for $10,000, right? You go win Family Feud, right? The top prize in Family Feud is $10,000. Well, in the back of the days, it was $10,000 to get all the answers right. Now it's $20,000. Yeah. So he's asking for $10,000 and doesn't and has done no research on it. And again, who are we talking about? We're talking about Shawn.
Yeah,
Hufford
we're talking about somebody who prides
yeah.
himself on critical thinking here. Now, this is something I want to bring up, and I want to bring this up because there's been a philosophical style argument about this of whether it's a fraud, whether it's a scam, because there has to be intention. Now, here's what I want to point out to people. Okay, when you're a drug addict, right? When you're a drug, and I'm not saying Shawn is, I'm just giving this as an example. When you're a drug addict, okay, and you are in you're depressed with yourself because you're in a shitty situation, you're looking at your bag of whatever drug you do, and you're thinking to yourself, this is what's putting me in this situation, and you're coming to the conclusion that you're going to stop. But however, you're a drug addict, and the very next day when your drug is gone, you're looking at scoring again. Because whether on the outside you tell yourself and you tell the people around you and you tell the bag of drugs that you're looking at and staring depressingly at and saying, I'm no longer going to do you because you keep me down, the very next day you're doing it again. And it can be a deeper lack of control over something that's causing you to, some kind of psychological effect. Like for addicts, it's a different, chemical makeup in the brain that causes them to be, to be addicted to their pleasures. I don't think this is something that Shawn's dealing with right now. But what I mean to say is that on the outside, he may have never had intentions. He may have told himself there was no intention. But if he truly had the intention, if when he went into that fundraiser, he said, if I raise $74.50, I'm dropping this on the next 10 months worth of lease. Then when he got that $74.50, he would have dropped that on the next 10 months worth of lease. He could have easily dropped that and got out of Dodge at that moment. He would have never owed anything. 10 months later, he could come back after he has his established job that he bragged so much about having that I questioned him about. He said 2 months later, he wasn't sure, wasn't confident about the job anymore. I said, what changed in 2 months where you were telling us in a fundraiser that you were completely confident in this job and that you'd met the lady and that she accepts you for who you are? And then 2 months later, you're not sure about that confidence anymore. Did you have a conversation with her? And he was like, no, I hadn't talked to her. Well, then what's changed about her? You know, like that you're making excuses that don't make sense to a critical thinker. And I pride myself on critical thinking. I like to look at evidence. I don't like speculation. I like to look at evidence. I'll come to a conclusion, but I'll accept that my conclusion can be altered based on future facts that might come out. When I looked at the stuff, I came to the conclusion that something was fishy there, and I was right.
I want to bring that. I'm going to bring that up. The kind of piggyback on what you just said, and answer this question that Agrippa brings up. Now, Agrippa and I have gone back and forth. When I talked about trolls earlier, yes, I'm going to call you a troll right now. Because you were kind of trolly there for a bit, and that's fine. I completely support you questioning, calling out, do whatever you want. I'm just giving you a hard time. I have a very high standard, and Nate and I spoke about this before the stream. Doing what I do, I have to be extremely careful when I present something as a news report. There are legal implications there. I open myself up for slander and libel and defamation of character accusations. So I have to be very careful what I say. Now, if I'm going to go out there and say Nate is a terrible lawyer who's lost every single case he's ever fought, if I can't prove that, if I can't show the court documents, boom, here it is, then yeah, that's defamation of character, because that can directly affect and impact Nate's job or Nate's persona or Nate's whatever, his livelihood. So I can't just go out and say, well, based on the little bitty bits of evidence that I have that, you know, Shawn is this or that Reds is that. I can't do that. That's just not something that I'm going to open myself up to. Like Team Skeptic, I'm going to wait for more than just a preponderance of evidence before I make a decision or make an assumption or make a statement of a fact or even offer my opinion when it comes to this stuff. So your question about would you support Reds in any future shows or endeavors, given the many large question marks around his ethics, I have never supported Reds rhetoric in any of his shows. So no, I wouldn't do it going forward either. I'd never cared for his style of debunking his. I never really appreciated the way that he went after people. It just wasn't my cup of tea.
Well,
You're good.
Go ahead.
No, I don't think. No, my thought process moved too erratically. I'll think about what I want to say.
Yeah, it's ADHD. Nate, just talk.
No, like I learned to live with it. So by all means, please go ahead. Yeah, but
you know, it's the sad part about this is that we were talking about intent earlier and the issue of intent, and this seems to be the last sticking point in this whole issue, right? No one wants to say their friends intended to scam them, right? No way. We know these people, right? Same thing with Kyle and GE, right? GE didn't want to realize that Kyle had scammed them and scammed, you know, nobody wanted to realize that. And no one wants to throw away their friends either, because even though Kyle did something bad to Steve, that was still their friend. And to throw away your friends in their weakest moment, just the same with Shawn. This is his weakest moment, right? You need your friends when you're in trouble. You don't need your friends when everything is good. And they want to stay around. They're not your friends. They're just hangers on. You know, you need when you're low, when you need help. That's when you need your friends. And I think that's true for Shawn. And I think that's true for Kyle. But when we're talking about intent, there's no way that I can prove any criminal defendant that I prosecuted intended to do their crime. Right? There's really no way I can prove. Absolutely, because I can't go into their mind and say they intended to do this, right? There's no way you can do that, right? Intent is it's a mental state, right? It's called mens rea, it's a mental state. So how do you prove someone's mental state? How do you prove that someone intended to do something? Well, you line up evidence and you say, well, what does this evidence show? What would a reasonable person do in this situation? And if all this evidence is leading me to say that this person seemingly intended to do this, then I have enough to show a jury that I believe intent is garnered here, right? So in this situation, we're talking about specific intent, and that intent is making false statements to induce people to give you money. That's essentially what a fraud is, right? I'm making false statements and to induce you to give me money based on those false statements, right? And that's as simple that's the simplest fraud that we can get. It's the Bernie Madoff fraud. That's the We Build the Wall fraud. I don't know if you guys know We Build the Wall, but they were, people give us money to build the wall, and they were taking the money and buying clothes, right? So that's generally what we're talking about with intent. So here, do we have this person making false statements? Yes, right? I think there's no question that this person has made false statements. But now the question is, do we believe that person made these false statements maliciously, or were they accidents? Because that's what it seems like people are saying. People are struggling with whether these were accidents or whether he did this purposefully. I would say accidents would be, well, I looked at my lease and I signed a new lease and saw that, or I called the management company. There are certain things that you would expect a reasonable person to do.
Right.
Someone who's not doing all these things. I don't know what my lease is. I don't know what this is. I only had 10 days left instead of 10 months. It seems like the whole story, right? As I asked you guys earlier, is there any part of the story about why he needed these funds that were true? Nothing was true. So at that point, what is it reasonable to say that someone who tells you, like if I tell you I need $10,000 for tuition, and you come to find out, not only didn't I pay tuition, I didn't even go to school that year, right? I can say, well, I didn't intend to scam you guys. But when you look at the facts and evidence, what's reasonable? And that's what I'm saying.
I agree with what you're saying there. The facts and evidence, it definitely adds up that it looks at least at the very, it looks suspicious at the very least, right? Very least it looks suspicious. Now let's, for the sake of just, shooting the shit here, let's assume that you were going to college, you need $10,000 for college, right? And you raised you raised 8,000, well, not quite the 10 grand, right? And you have every intention of going to college, but because you didn't, raise that full tuition, you paid part of this, part of that, but something happened to stop you from going to the school that you said you were going to go to.
Okay.
At that point, I'm pretty sure that most of the people who donated to Shawn in this instance, had Shawn said, hey guys, I didn't get the money I thought I was going to get. Things have changed. I don't know if I have this job lined up like I thought I would. Now I've got another place that I can go to that's going to give me a better living situation. I think that would have solved it for everybody. Everyone would have been, hey, yeah, awesome. You do you. That's cool. We gave you that money because we wanted you to get into a better situation.
Of course,
I think that's the point of transparency, once you're transparent about everything, when it comes to light, it's very easy to just update people on the facts. That's one thing I said many times over. I said nobody would have judged you had you just been honest. If you'd have said, hey, look, guys, just like you said, I can't do the whole thing. It's going to put me in a precarious situation. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to pay off month by month and live off of the other and continue to seek out a job. I'm not even going to Florida because I don't even have confidence in that job anymore. This community, the way they react, they're very intelligent and compassionate people. They would have just told Shawn, look, Shawn, do what you have to do. But the fact that there was no transparency, the fact that we were cut off from information, the moment that the fundraiser was over, the people who gave the money were cut off from information until Uni Rock called them out, and then Shawn went on the defense on Red's channel when all 6 of us were there. That's when he said, I spent the $74.50 on the rent. He validated the reasoning. He self-validated the reasoning for asking for so much money months later when he did that live stream and said that he used the money for the rent. That's why I have the hardest time believing that even if there's at the surface level, he might have truly convinced himself that he was going to pay the rent. He might have truly convinced the audience that he, and Reds and me and Fight and AT2, he might have truly convinced all of us. But I think deep down, subconsciously, there was never an intent to pay the rent. And his actions back up that assertion.
Well, I would even say this. The one thing that also flips me with this story is that I saw the videos and I've seen some of the comments after, right? The issue was before this whole thing broke. Shawn specifically said he needed more money because, and because he didn't reach the 10th, that the fundraiser never met its goal and we were short. And that was the story for about a year, right? Making the community feel bad that he didn't reach the $10,000, right? He has a because we didn't. I need to.
Now that might have been like a side effect of that. I think what he, and again, this is me speculating here. So
go ahead.
I think what the idea of telling people that we didn't reach the goal was his way of, to at least himself, justifying how he was spending the money, and not doing it the way he said he was doing it, right?
But I think, but hold on. But I want to put
to himself. No, to himself.
All right, because
to us.
Because why not get the fans off the hook? If you know I got more money than I actually ever needed, you could have said, well, even though we didn't meet the goal, we were okay, everything was fine. But that's not what he was saying. He was saying we didn't meet the goal and I need more, right? We didn't need the goal and I need more. So if it was, hey, we didn't meet the goal to keep the lie alive, then I would say yes. But his was, we didn't meet the goal and I need more. They even had another fundraiser, right, in March or something like that. So that's what I'm saying. If to say this wasn't, I understand it's uncomfortable to say this was what it was, but I do want to say this. If any, let's just take the names out of it. I keep saying let's take the names out of it. If you found out that everything that you gave to a fundraiser for was false, the whole story, right? No matter what the person's internal reasons were, the whole story was false. And then when questions came, the person continuously lied to you about it. No receipt. We paid the landlord. We did this. Everything up to a point was a lie since the pandemic, right? This was before the pandemic started. Remember, before mask wearing and all this stuff. So we're talking about that whole time. And then only time they come clean is when you have the outright proof that they didn't do it. I would say, if listen, when I was a prosecutor, you give me this case and send me to a courtroom, and I think I might be able to come out with a conviction. I'm just going to be honest with you. It'll be hard for me. It'll be almost incompetent for me not to.
And let's honestly speculate here, okay? Let's honestly speculate. Let's take away my Whiskey Wednesday rant that brought all this to the light in the community. And let's just say that Unirock is still the only person talking about it. Would Shawn have come forward and admitted to this? No, he wouldn't have. And would Reds have publicly called out Shawn? Most likely not, because any kind of negative look towards Shawn makes it look bad towards him. He's already said, he's already personally said this has ruined his ability to do YouTube. I don't think it has. He's going to take a break. What would that have all happened had Shawn came out? Probably. And if that would have been the case, then he would that shows that he was pushing off, to, at least in my opinion, that he was pushing off this inevitability as long as he could, and as long as it was only Unirock talking about it, he could push it off forever and ever and ever, because no one was ever going to listen to Unirock, no one was ever going to call Shawn out. But the moment I did it, when I have an actual voice here with this community, who were the people that were responsible for donating, then all of the sudden, within 1 week and really days, right? I'll give it a week because it took 3.5 days for the entire thing to progress. Or transgress. So from my Whiskey Wednesdays to coming on the plot hole on fucking Friday, he was already ready to confess and tell the whole world what the exact truth was, which I don't think was the exact truth. I think it was the truth that could be proven. That's what truth we heard that night. There might have been a lot more that we couldn't have proven that he did admit to, but there's probably other things that we can't prove that he's not going to admit to, because he obviously knows nobody will ever be able to prove it. And it's not going to make him look any better to admit everything. I'm okay with all that. Now the truth has come out. Now we understand that moving forward, when we see somebody that's offering to do any kind of charity, any kind of fundraiser, there needs to be an understanding and an expectation of complete transparency. And if there's not, then it just does. If you're not prepared to do that, then don't run a fundraiser on your channel. Don't run a charity.
Well, can I say? I just want to
Go
say
ahead.
one thing. Let
Go
me
ahead,
just give a full disclaimer. Shawn Hufford is innocent until proven guilty in a court of competent jurisdiction, right? So we're not saying he's guilty of any crime,
Right.
but we're saying that the evidence that's been presented to us makes it very suspect that something amiss has happened. So again, he is innocent until proven guilty in a court of competent jurisdiction. We don't know that he's guilty, but we do have questions and we do have extremely serious concerns, and we're laying them out for you tonight.
Now, Nate, I wanna bring something up that you brought up. I want to ask you how you feel about it. First off, Brainy, do you care to, again, we started with this question of will we support Reds? I'll make it a short answer. No, that's my short answer. Has nothing to do with the fundraisers, have everything to do with my personal feelings. But Brainy, short answer, you supporting Reds moving forward, yes or no?
No, because the behavior I've seen is unacceptable. And I've been saying in the background, like, I mean, it just, yeah, I mean, he's never been like, he's nice to me when he needs to be. He's never like, let's just put it that way. He's nice when he needs to be. That's pretty much Reds in a nutshell. So.
And okay, so Nate, back to you. You mentioned that that when people are down, they need their friends, right?
Yeah.
Now, I want you to elaborate. What do you need from your friends when you're going through a situation like this? What do you as being someone who's down, you might need somebody to pick you up, but do you need your friends to hold you accountable for the things that you've done, or should they not?
Oh,
right.
Well, yes, you're right. They should definitely hold me accountable, but with compassion, right? Because that's why you're my friend.
Yeah, okay.
You fucked up,
That's
but we're going to help you.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. So did you see the live stream that they did on Red's channel after when Shawn came out and told his side of the story?
Oh, yeah, it was a whitewash.
It was Saturday. It was that friends being there for Shawn? That was not friends being there for Shawn. That was friends being there for themselves.
Yeah, that seemed more of a cover up than a friend stream. Yeah.
It really frustrated me to see that, because me and Johnny scrutinize his story more than his own friends. We shouldn't be the ones scrutinizing his own story. They got this bus rolling. Every one of them should have been scrutinizing his story so they could have got out in front of that bus before the bus ran over them and continued on to something where we're at now, where it's uncontrollably going down a hill, just rolling over everybody who didn't get out of the way of it in advance. And none of them got out of the way. And that's why they're in the situation they're in today. Transparency is a must, guys. Don't be like this. If you're gonna do it, transparency is a must.
Well, I have two things. Well, I have a couple of things that I think that will help with transparency. If this community is going to do fundraisers, I think fundraisers are a good thing. I think a healthy community has fundraisers to help its own and you know, because people get down. So to say we're not going to ever hold a fundraiser again, I think it harms the people who actually need help because someone bad did something in the past. So, but I think you move forward, but you move forward smartly. And number one, use GoFundMe, right? So you can see how many donations come in, how much was collected, and you can see where the money went. And then you'll be held accountable by GoFundMe and the authorities if something has happened. You know, make sure we have receipts, right? If you're going to use it for a specific person, make sure, hey, we'll hold a fundraiser, but it's your responsibility to bring that receipt to let us know that the money was used the way it's
better yet,
those type of things, you know?
Better yet, have an impartial third-party executor of those funds.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's even better. Yeah. But just so, because I think if you put real controls in and real transparency in, then people will feel comfortable giving to these fundraisers again. Because right now, if you're giving to Shawn Hufford, nobody really knows how much Shawn Hufford made from this fundraiser, right? It's only reason why we're even saying 7,480 is because that's what he told us. Nobody really knows. Nobody really knows. He could have made $20,000 from that fundraiser. Not saying he did, but who really knows? How can we know?
Right.
But he also could have just had a $25,000 arrearment that he couldn't get rid of, and ultimately ended up in a $2,000 judgment against him after he paid 10 months of rent. I mean, there's lots of ifs out there, you know. But you're right that without complete transparency, without people coming forward and showing the receipts, then you're going to find yourself in a situation where you can legitimately question, did he only get the amount that he said? Because the only evidence that we have that is what he got is because that's what he told us that he got. But he also told us he paid rent when he didn't pay rent. You know, he also
the only thing we can trust is nothing, because we can't trust his word. Right now we're in a I like to call it the trust but verify stage, right?
Yes.
He's told us things, but if we can't verify this stuff, I'm not gonna. If somebody right now was to say, "Would you bet $100 that he only got that much money?" I would say, "Hell no!" Right? I couldn't bet that money because I don't know, right? I'm not trusting him, and that's why a lot. And I think there's still a piece of everyone who wants to trust him from the beginning, right? We trust that he wasn't lying to us. We trust that he was telling us. We trust that he didn't do this for this reason, even though all the bells are ringing the other way.
Right.
It's
And
still
that's
that,
fine at the
you know,
beginning, for your friends, I'll trust my friends from the beginning, but once I start smelling deception or dishonesty, I'm gonna, hey guy, what's going on here? I'm not necessarily gonna publicly call you out, but I'm gonna pull you aside and say, hey, what the fuck's going on here? There's you're not on the up and up. There's some things that are missing, things that just don't.
Another thing that I caught earlier that you said, Nate, and I made a note of this, was that you guys and y'all's community were discussing, like, wow, these fundraisers, like, this is ridiculous, like, this is getting ridiculous. And that was from an outside point of view. From the inside, the way it looked for me, because I used to be on the inner side of that circle, I'd never benefited from anything. So a lot of these things that Unirock says, oh, they're all getting paid off of this. I never received $1 from it, and I was a part of it. I don't think FTFE received $1 from it. He was a part of it. I don't think Reds received any money other than the fundraisers he ran for himself to get equipment, which even if you overpay on the equipment from the community, I think that's okay, because he's still doing rocket launches. I mean, he needs to put the money towards his car or gas, or, I mean, those are expenses that are going to happen regardless, but I don't see too much of a problem with that. But, when we were, even people like, I want to put names out there, but us on the inside, there was a couple of us that every time one of these fundraisers, it seemed like they ran them like every other month, they would find a new reason to ask the community to donate money to them. And I was like, these people work for this money, guys. I know y'all see it as free money coming in off of a tree, but me, I don't see it that way. I see it as these people work really hard for their money. Especially now, in a time like now with the pandemic, there's a lot of people having to cut back and put money aside for, and just in case. And that's totally understandable. But, to just, once they start getting the taste of that free money, it's really hard to get that craving out of your mouth, to get that, to just look and see an opportunity arise every time you need one to arise. Oh, there's an opportunity. Oh, we need money. Oh, we'll just crowdfund it. We'll just put it to a fundraiser. And even me sitting on the inside, I was like, I told Fight, don't do fundraisers on your channel, man. Cause he did one. And I told him, I said, the only thing, it's like arguing with a flat earther, right? You already have the right position when you don't host the fundraiser, because it's not your responsibility. It's not, you can't lose by not hosting the fundraiser. The only way you come out even is if you do the fundraiser and the fundraiser goes perfectly well. The only thing that's ever going to happen is something's going to go wrong, and it's ultimately that's going to come back to bite you in the ass. That's going to come back to hurt your character, hurt your brand, bite you in the ass. It's just not worth it for you to do it on your channel. And so him and I, after that one, he hasn't done another one on his channel. And I wouldn't go on after the Shawn Hufford, man, when they said $10,000, I about flipped, man. I had no idea.
$10,000.
Yeah. I had look, this is the honest truth, right? So I've told this, right? I was sitting at home. I get a message from, I believe it was Jared. There's some hazy facts because I wasn't necessarily paying attention to this, thinking that it would be important one day. But I believe it was Jared hit me up and says, Shawn needs our help. Let's go. And I'm like, dude, count me in. Shawn's a friend. Count me in. Never done me wrong. Why not? So I go in there not knowing anything is going on. I just know Shawn. I knew Shawn was in a bad position, so I knew we were going to be helping him out. That was the assumed part of what was going through my mind. So we get in there, and then basically I jump in almost right as the live stream starting. So I have no idea what they're about to ask for or anything. And the moment he says $10,000, I was like, what?
We're gonna go for it all tonight.
God damn, yeah, let's get a down payment on a house or something. Shit. So when he said that, I listened to his reasoning, and I was like, hold on now. Your reasoning's wrong. I've been a landlord. I've been a property manager before. So the owner lived out of town. I had to manage a property for him that I also lived next door to. So it was no big deal. I acted as his executor for lack of a better term,
Mm-hmm.
the property manager. So I had to file an eviction on somebody for non-payment of rent. It's not something you just walk into the court and go, hey, he didn't pay his rent, I need him out. No, you have to have evidence for this. You have to show that you went through the process of the filings and requesting the rent, the 3-day notices. Each state is different, but there's renters' rights. These are federally guaranteed by the Office of Housing, I believe. This is each state might be slightly different, but they all fall under the purview of this federal law. And that federal law guarantees that someone can't just go in and kick you out of your house and take you out of your abode. That is the purpose of that law, so that somebody, the property owner, can't go, I don't like you, get out. And you have till 9 p.m. that night when it's 8:15 to get your stuff and get out before he changes the locks. That's illegal. And that they have these laws. And I brought it up. I was like, do you not have renters' rights? Turns out they got all kinds of fucking renters' rights in Indiana.
They have exceptional renters'
exceptional
rights.
ones. They have case law that says that property owners can't just drain you for the 10 months like he was claiming.
Yeah, they can't.
They have case law.
It's the legal principle is called mitigation. It's actually a contract law principle, it mixes between contract law and property. But mitigation is a principle, is that the lease is actually a contract, and the contract terms are for the year. And in mitigation, some states, Florida doesn't do this, but in most states, a landlord has a duty to mitigate his losses. In other words, if somebody leaves early, like a month early, the landlord can generally only get maybe 2 to 3 months of future rent, because they're supposed to be able to flip it, clean it up, and then sell it, put another person inside there. So generally, when you look at the register in Indiana, you'll see most of the judgments are for like $2,000, $3,000.
And that's the reason why, right?
Yeah, because they only allow you to get maybe 2 or 3 months rent by law, because they'll say, and what they generally do is they'll say, like, in this area, how long does it generally take somebody to rent an apartment? The apartment stays open for 2 months, then you'll get 2 months mitigation, 60, or 3 months or whatever. So, and they're really good. The Indiana is one of those states that are really, really good at that. But Florida is actually the exact opposite, where if you're in Florida, then it's it's the whole thing. So it really depends on the state. But this state has very, very strong renters. One thing I wanted to ask you guys, though, that it came to come to my mind. Actually, it's more of a statement than a question. I think this community has to start healing.
Yes.
And what I mean by healing is Shawn has done us wrong. There's some other stuff that's still going on. And the Kyle Curtis thing, right? We need to move forward. We need to move forward. And what I mean by that is, if you were on one side when Kyle Curtis was doing the thing with Steve, right? He scammed Steve. We all can agree with that, right? He took Steve's channel, he took Steve's money, said he was going to pay him, and didn't pay him, right? GE, who was his friend, right? His wife, Mr. Atheist, all those people who were friends with Kyle got flambéed, right? People were saying they were scammers. How could they support him? And they believed their friend, right? They said, we believed Kyle. And then when they found out Kyle was lying, they came out and said, well, Kyle's a liar. We're done with them. But everybody still held them accountable to backing Kyle, to going on the channel, to still supporting Kyle, even though they said that eventually we believed our friends, and they were excommunicated from the group, right? Then on now, it's interesting to see the shoe on the other foot, because the shoe is damn sure
is it?
Yep.
On the
How
other
interesting
foot.
Is it?
And now those same people who had cast GE off, who had cast Mr. A, these people are no longer welcome. Now with the shoe on the other foot, are saying, well, we can't cast Reds off, right? We can't throw him out, right? Because I've heard people say he would have done what any friend would have done, right? And people saying, well, he's a good friend.
Right.
Those were the arguments I was hearing with GE. I heard he was culpable, so that's what I'm saying. If we're going to heal, I think the number one thing we need to do as a community is stop all this guilt by association shit.
Yep.
Stop all this. This is what happened. This is what happened. This is what happened. And hold the people accountable who we know for a fact did wrong things, right? We know for a fact Kyle gave fake bank statements to the court. That was wrong. Gone, right? We know Shawn faked having to pay a lease. We know he took the money, gone, right? But that shouldn't stop us all from calling those people out and coming together and saying, okay, let's move forward as a community. Right now, this community is fractured, but it's fractured because of this whole, your guys are bad guys, so all your people are bad. And that's what Unirock was doing recently, right? He's doing it to you, team, and the rest of you guys, right? You guys are all scammers, right? But he was saying that because as Brainy Beaver, his responses to Unirock was saying, well, you're a scammer too because what you did with Kyle. And I think those two things, and I think when you have those two things coming together, we'll never get anywhere, right? We'll never get anywhere.
If I must jump in, though, I do have, like, I mean, you got to appreciate when I'm sitting there hate watching Unirock, because that's what it is. And I listen to him literally, like, maybe now 48, maybe the 72 hours from now, like within the last 2 or 3 days, and I'm sitting there and I literally hear him say, and you know, my quote's getting loose, you know how time moves, but it's basically, it was long, and of course, you know, his streams are too, you miss it, you try to find it, you're like, God damn it, 6-hour stream. So I've been watching the same 20 minutes over and over again, trying to find that 3 seconds of words out of him, and I'll be damned if I can find it again. But
Brady, you gotta learn how to control F, man, and search the transcript. I gotta.
Oh no, that's fair enough. But so all it was is he said his exact quote was basically, he said he was talking about FTFE and how FTFE is guilty of fraud, like you were just mentioning, because he supported blah blah blah. And he said any creator that causes their fans to be defrauded by bringing their fans to that other creator is just as guilty of that fraud. It was along those lines, basically. And this thing is, so that's the problem. You have Unirock saying statements like that at hour 1 of 6. And it's literally in contrary to exactly what he says at hour 2.5 of 6. You know,
but no, I'm actually agreeing with you, right? But I think that's a symptom. I think that's a symptom of the condition. The condition is, I got you now, so I'm going to say the same thing about you that you said to me. And everybody's got their fingers on the trigger, and nobody's just saying, hold on. We all were scammed, right? We were scammed by both these guys. Fuck these guys. Let's now come together. Why can't we now come together and say, let's move forward? Godless Engineer got rambosted, and that happened, and we can't go back. And now Shawn is happening, and Reds is now feeling his. But now I think we have to start looking in on ourselves and say, is this the way we want to be? Us versus them until somebody gets caught, or is it going to be us? And when people do something wrong, we can all unanimously all together.
We hold our own accountable.
Yes.
Right, exactly. Don't let other people pull. Yeah, that's the thing. You want to have a good community. A lot of people talking about. I've been asked before, why do you keep bringing this up? And I said, well, because it's important that the community talk about this and figure out a way to, like you said, move forward. Figure out how, you know, what does that look like? Where does the move forward happen? There's still a lot of people that are very upset about this whole situation, and they need to get that out. They need to work through that. And part of working through that is having these types of discussions where, look, we're members of a community and we will hold you accountable for the shit that you do. That's going to happen. If I make a mistake or if I do something wrong, I expect people to hold me accountable. I hope this ages really well.
Yeah, right. Well, I want to say, you know, for about Uni, like just a small correction. If I wouldn't have come out and said what I said in the first live stream, I think Uni would have kind of grouped me in with them. But just to be fair, he's gone out of his way to tell people that I'm not a part of that. That I actually, this was prior to me. My Whiskey Wednesday coming out and ranting. This was based on my appearance in the first Reds Rhetoric live stream. So I just want to make sure that there's a lot of things that guy gets wrong. Okay. And I don't go by his channel and spend a lot of time there supporting him. I see a few of his friends over here in the chat, and, you know, I want to welcome them here. I made friends with them when I used to hang around a lot with Uni. So I have nothing against most of these people. And to be honest, my disagreements with Uni were over Steve, you know, because he kept trying to involve me with Steve. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Nate, but I'm pretty sure you have some kind of disagreements going on with Steve. Is this correct or incorrect?
Oh yeah. Me and Steve hate each other.
I'm a big Steve fanboy, only because he helped me get my start on YouTube, and I'm appreciative of that. But at the same time, me and him both have an agreement and an understanding that it doesn't control who I speak with, and I'm not going to say, hey, I don't like Red, so you can't talk to him, or we're not friends. Just like I say with Beaver and Johnny and anybody else out there, who you choose to associate is your business. I'll stay out of that. Just, don't judge me for who I associate with. You've never done me wrong, Nate. I don't think we've ever had any conversation. So I see you just as another person with a clean slate. I've seen a few of your videos based on some of the Kyle stuff, as well as some of the recent Shawn stuff. I feel like you take a great approach to it. You come through it very factual. So I don't want to take anything away from you. But just because we're having this conversation doesn't mean that, that I'm against Steve, which some people will roll. And that's kind of how Uni rolls things sometimes. I think Uni will sometimes say, like, I can understand why he has the, I think he's exaggerating something he does actually have a point on. And it's a point. One of the reasons why I came out the way I did is because I feel some sort of culpability, because if I'm there, right, let's look at the Shawn Hufford thing. Let's look at it from 2 points of view: how it happened and how it would have happened if I wasn't there, Jared wasn't there, Reds wasn't there, Fight wasn't promoting the fundraiser himself. When we're all there, the community gets taken for $8,000. If we're not there, maybe the community only gets taken for 800. So our role, our culpability, and this is the reason why I felt compelled to come out and speak up against this, is that my role there played a part in losing and taking some of that money, of some of the money getting taken, which at that point it was obvious to me that people were getting taken for their money. And that's why I decided to speak up. And that's why I say when Uni goes, FTFE's a scammer, Reds is a scammer, I think that's a far reach. I think that's an exaggeration. Now, I know Uni's very critical of me. I'll give him that. I don't mind him being critical of things I say and things I do, but this is just me being critical back. I think he has a point there. There is culpability. Without Fight putting the link in the chat and sharing the link and being, promoting this fundraiser that went defunct, without him promoting that, maybe there wouldn't have been as much money donated and lost. Without my presence on the live stream, maybe there wouldn't have been as much money donated and lost. Without it being on Red's channel, we know 100% that there wouldn't have been as much money, because if it would have had to go, I wouldn't have done it on my channel. And if it had gone on AT2 or Shawn's channel, it just wouldn't have garnered as much money. So we all have culpability here. We all need to stand up against this and say why we're wrong and how other people moving forward can do it right.
But I do want to ask this, though, because I kind of saw this from both perspectives, in the sense of, from Unirock's perspective, I'm looking at it like this: that when they got the court documents and they spoke to the landlord, it seems like have you ever tried to tell somebody, hey, we see this bus about to hit something, and you're screaming, stop the bus. And it seems like, from my perspective, he was trying to scream, stop the bus. And then it was like, well, nobody's paying attention to this proof that I believe I have.
Yeah.
And I believe he couldn't package it together because from my understanding, he had the proof, but he couldn't explain the proof. You know what I'm saying? Like I got it, but I can't explain it to convince people that this is what's going on. So I think that was kind of his way of, he was trying to convince people, but then he was like, well, if this doesn't convince you, then you must be down with it. You know what I'm saying? And when that started happening, I was like, okay, I think I understand what he's going. But then when obviously when you would delve deeper into it, you're like, oh, none of these people actually have anything to do with it. But I think that's kind of how it kind of developed, was like, well, if these people are not looking at the court documents and saying that I'm still, it's a conspiracy theory, then either they have to be, why they're protecting him. Why? Because I remember him saying a lot of that stuff. And I was like, okay, so from that perspective, I think I understand why he was saying it, but I think now it's time to clear that up, right? Because you were absolutely not involved. FTE is absolutely not involved. So now I think it's time to clear that up and say, well, I was wrong about that, because these guys weren't because the evidence I did just wasn't convincing enough. I hope I explained it. I'm not trying to make excuses for the guy, but I'm just trying to explain it from why I think that perspective is, because he's been screaming this for about a year and a half.
Yeah,
that's got to be frustrating. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So here's the problem: is that Unirock is a very drama-driven channel. So anywhere where, even if he has to exaggerate it, he's going to exaggerate it. He's going to pick a side. He's going to stand on that side. He's not going to be very skeptical of his own side. He's going to be more skeptical of the other side. That's just my subjective opinion about how he handles things. So when you take, for a skeptic like myself who needs more than just speculative evidence, more than just, hey, look, we have this piece of evidence and we're going to draw these connection lines and maybe you should follow them with us. I try not to do that. I try to see if there's a piece maybe between that connects the dots, which is what ended up happening with Shawn. I saw some evidence that kind of led me in a direction. And then when I saw the final piece of evidence, that was when I was prepared to come out and say, this is going to be the evidence and this is how we're going to promote it. So I didn't follow these other lines of conspiracies that Unirock has of other fundraisers and other scams. I'm sure some do exist. I mean, I'm not saying he's completely wrong, but what it ends up looking like from a person like myself, it ends up looking like a tiny piece of gold nugget wrapped around a bunch of cornfield shit. And you can't really look into the shit and determine what's the difference between the corn nugget and the gold nugget. So a lot of times you'll miss the gold nugget and just throw it all away. And in this instance, he was nailing it. I mean, he was presenting it well. Nobody would listen. And rightfully so. I mean, rightfully so. In my opinion, he's not going to get the people who needed to hear to just all of a sudden go start believing him when he's done nothing but attack that community for a year straight. And he makes all these huge exaggerated claims. And that's when people stop listening to him. If he stopped exaggerating his claims, then people would probably start taking him a bit more seriously. But he's a drama channel and he does what he does, and good on him for doing it. I wish him the best,
Yeah. I think that is the problem that Uni has, is that it's too much. It's over the top, and people, they don't, when it's always over the top. Everything's over the top. Everything's over the top. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, that's just Uni being Uni. So, we're going to go over here. And then when people say, well, here's the evidence. Oh, okay, cool. All right, awesome.
Well, I like the way you moderate things. I absolutely hate Brainy, and you've given us about equal amount of time to talk. So thank you very much.
I was welcoming my own quietness. I've been enjoying it.
I doubt that you're so ADHD. I mean, that's
when I work places.
That was
I put a podcast
you should
in
have laughed. So you should have laughed immediately after saying that, so we could have heard the nerve. You should have been like, "I'm actually enjoying my silence."
well, unfortunately, we're about 2 hours in almost, and I have to go because I have to.
Absolutely, yeah. I was just about to wrap this sucker up myself. So, Nate the lawyer, it was a pleasure meeting you. I appreciate you coming on the show and offering your expertise and experience. You are more than welcome to come on any show of mine if you'd like. So you have open invitation to come back. And again, I appreciate everything you've done. And the sharing of information has been amazing. So yeah, I'm sure I got stuff to do too. So
I will definitely be back. I just want to say it's funny because I've seen each one of you on videos already before. I've seen a whole bunch of his shit because I like the way he bangs on the flat earthers. But so I am a fan, and I do want to say this. I think we all need to just we can get past this, but I think we can get past this if we have transparency and some procedures in place so people can know when they give their money to something, they're giving it to something and it's going to be spent in that way. And if we don't do that, then we're all going to be back in the situation soon. But listen, it was fantastic meeting you, Johnny O. Team. Again, I love you, even though you're like Steve, we got a problem there, but I still love you. And trust me. I don't care anybody talks to Steve. I'm past that. And Brainy, thanks again for reaching out. And it's amazing. It's amazing
to get you on my
like I said,
one day, Nate. So.
Yeah, like I said to you too and Nate at the same time after we had our conversation, I really enjoyed talking with you, and I'd love to have you on. So I said I'll find something a little bit of legal, and then that way we've got something to use your expertise for.
All right, hey, I'm all for it. But thanks again, guys.
All right, Nate.
Yeah, take care, man.
All right, man. This has been fun. I hope everybody enjoyed the conversation, learned a little bit here and there, got what they needed to get out. But it is important to move on. I'll put together my final follow-up that'll be out, I think, Monday or the Monday after, just so I can get everything and do this story justice. And then I'm going to leave this in the past. Unless something new and fresh comes out, I'm done with this one. So yeah, I'm gonna get to the super chats here, and everybody, like I said, you're more than welcome to hang out, not hang out. It's up to you. Brainy, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you helping me set this up with Nate, and then of course Team Skeptic.
Whatever, bro.
Whatever.
Will you please sign my court documents this time, team?
No, not at all. I'm still denying that I'm your father. So until I see DNA proof.
Oh,
You have too much hair on your face to be my child because our perceived shared parent of yours, she will absolutely not have that much hair on her face. So you're not my son.
I was talking about the community service papers, but whatever, you know.
Oh, you need me to sign those for you? You got in trouble?
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
I'm skeptic.
All right, let me get these super chats up here. Hang on 1 second. I appreciate everybody who did super chat and you know, all the stickers and whatnot. You guys are awesome. I really do appreciate it. Oh, wait, that's not
Commander.
Daniel Cooper says Team Skeptic Whiskey Wednesday tomorrow. Abso-fucking-lutely. Nate, you're welcome to join if you like whiskey or any alcohol. You can come in and have a couple of shots. We're going to be talking about EDP 445. You know who that is, right?
No. EDP 445.
Oh,
yeah,
Johnny, will you
electric dance music? That's what
hold on,
DPs.
Johnny. Can I shield myself out for a second? Thank you.
Go
You
right
don't even
ahead.
have to answer because I already know you're going to say yes. Nate, check it out. Okay.
All right.
EDP I'm covering 3 topics tomorrow. The Battle of the Joshes, which was
Oh my god.
Yeah, I remember the Battle of
friendly.
Joshes.
That was amazing.
Okay, so you're okay, good. We're gonna be covering Battle of Joshes tomorrow. We're gonna be covering Playmate Tessie's appearance on Dr. Phil. Do you know who Playmate Tessie is?
I think I've heard the story. I thought it was on. Well, I'm
She's a
assuming
weirdo.
Story, right? It was yes, but I've seen the story.
All right.
I think what it was, Entertainment Tonight or some shit like that. My wife watches it.
Yeah, so she'll be on that on Dr. Phil. So we'll talk about her, and then we're gonna top it all off with talking about EDP 445. EDP stands for Eating That Punani, we'll say, just for monetization purposes. Eating That Punani.
I think that word's in there too.
I've known this guy. Listen, I've known about this guy for a decade almost because I'm a big time Dallas Cowboy fan and he's a big time Philadelphia Eagles fan.
Yeah.
So I always used to watch him trash on the Eagles because that's what he got known famous for, was just blowing up on the Eagles, talking about their trades or their moves or their game or whatever the case may be. Anyway, he used to be a funny guy. And then recently he got caught by a predator poacher. He's already had allegations of sexual predator, being a sexual predator, and the allegations really went nowhere. So they set up a sting with him. And it turns out the predator poacher guys are pieces of shit too. So we're going to bring that on. We're going to watch the actual catch and release. Yes, it's a catch and release because they are not cops and they failed to call the police. So we could definitely use a lawyer's perspective on that.
What time's your show? Because I have a show tomorrow too. That's why.
What time is your show? Mine's flexible.
I tell you what.
If he gets drunk in his,
hang on a second. Wait, stop. We're gonna count to 3, and then both you say the time at the same time. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
6:30.
Oh, all right.
Works out.
Oh, what? Hold on. Let's not forget we don't live on a flat Earth. What's your time zone?
That's true. It's Eastern time zone.
9 Eastern, so that's 8 for me. Okay. I'll go on at 6.
Before you go to your show, Nate. I'm just kidding.
No, that's 8. Hold on. No, I'm sorry. I did the wrong time on that. 8, that's 7 for me. So your show starts an hour into mine.
God, he said 9.
Dog, that's not.
He said 9.
Time?
He said 9.
I said,
yeah,
so it's 8. It's 8 your times.
8 o'clock our
time,
time.
team.
8. Okay, so I was right.
Yeah, because we start setting up about 8:30 though. So
yeah. So let's see. So that would be about 7:30 my time.
But maybe it might not be this. But maybe that tomorrow may be a little tough because 2 shows. Because don't forget, I got 2 kids. I gotta. My wife would kill me if
and we're going to drink
5 or 6 hours. Yeah.
And we drink. Okay.
But
we
drink.
I probably, we call people out. We drink.
And you do it every Wednesday, right?
Every Wednesday.
All right. I might be able to get some time next Wednesday.
That's fine. Come on next Wednesday. I'll have 3 more topics to talk about. We bullshit. Schrodinger's cat comes on. Irish Demon comes on. We all sit back, have a few shots. Artie's corporate fiction comes on. I don't know. Are you familiar with Artie?
No, I'm not familiar with Artie.
Okay. He's a lawyer that covers soft sits.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he comes on. So yeah, we'd love to have you on. Come on, have a couple of shots with us and talk some shit about people.
All right, I'm definitely going to take you up on that. So be wary. I'm taking you up on that. So
how's the best way to get in touch with you?
I'm gonna send you I'll send you thing on Twitter. I'll send you a DM on Twitter.
Okay. I'll follow you so I get the DMs.
Yeah, because that's how I got Beaver and Johnny We're all Twitter brothers.
Yeah.
So I'll send you something on Twitter tonight. And
It's
we'll
good having
we'll
contacts with
text
people, though. This is how we all reach out to each other, right? So
PM for everybody asking. PM. All right, here we go. Really
PM,
quick.
private
Where am
message?
I?
What?
No, they wanted
Oh.
to know if the shows were in the,
No,
in
don't
the
worry, you guys
morning
are-
or the evening.
PM. Well, listen, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Let me run because I definitely have to run. But thanks again for having me on, and you guys have a wonderful evening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're the same.
Thank
You
very
too,
much.
man. Take care.
Yeah, have a good
Take
night.
care, guys.
All right, Cygnus for 5 Americans says the gray in the beard is real. Yes, it is. It is getting grayer and grayer. Raven Zero for 2 US says the plot hole, the place where holes have plots. Sometimes they don't. Cygnus again says lesson to be learned is have a trust with an EIN. Yep, I would say so. Leroy R53.
EIN, sorry.
Yeah, EIN. Tax ID.
Oh.
Leroy R53 with a super sticker. Thank you very much. Actually, 2 of them. We have popcorn and a banana. Dancing banana at that. Wrote a no last name for 5 Americans says, though Shawn lied, everyone involved did due diligence to my satisfaction. Bella Charge for 2 New Zealand says, who invited the COD champ team?
I invited myself, I think, didn't I?
Something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
did.
Sounds about right.
When you get as big as I am, you invite yourself places,
It's
guys.
like-
you just
it's
say, "Yo,
like-
I'm available." You don't
like
even have to say, "Bring me on" or "Can I come on." You just the words "I'm available" have a
Right,
different
so-
meaning.
This is how big team is. You can see this piece of paper right now, but if I turn it this way, now you can't see it. That's Team Skeptic, by the way.
Team Skeptic got no eyes, too. Hashtag Team Skeptic got no eyes. Just like Simon Dan got no legs, Team Skeptic got no eyes.
Bullshit.
That was last week
My
on-
baby blues shine brightly. Oh my
Listen,
God.
that's not what that picture from last Whiskey Wednesday there says.
Oh,
Those are
shoot.
What
some
picture?
tiny eyes. I
All
sent
right.
you that picture. I'll
Oh.
send it to you now.
Yeah,
Brainy
send it to me.
Beaver. I'm assuming this is a lovey beaver, but I can't really tell what that is for 2 Canadian. Leroy R53 for $1.
Oh yeah, that was a Dogecoin thing. What is that? A Shiba Inu?
Oh, okay, yeah.
He was giving you love. Doge was giving you love. Shiba Inu
It was
style.
giving me love about 2 weeks ago, not so much anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't invest in Doge. What you buy when it's down,
$1.49s.
wait till the kids pump it, then sell.
That's
Every
yeah.
$1.49 that Leroy throws your way is like at Wendy's. You can get, I think, 3 chicken nuggets at Wendy's. So keep count because that's
a
what
lot of
it's
chicken
going
nuggets.
towards.
That's a lot of chicken nuggets. Let's see here. The Holy Spackle for $4.99 US says, I love Nate. Transparency and accountability is a must. My intuition has questions about Reds and AT2 involvement. Shawn is holding the hot potato. I tend to agree. Leroy R53 for 5 Americans says, stop with your facts, team.
Exactly.
Leroy R53 for another 5 says, Agrippa never trolls. I have evidences. Reed Charbonneau for 2 Americans
Never.
says, the promise of their support with a calendar. WTF. Stuart Christmas for, I don't know what that is. SGD. Yeah, we're good there.
Sega Genesis dollars.
Yeah. Says, love your channel, Johnny. Keep it up. And for what it's worth, I don't think Shawn would have owned up if not forcefully pushed to do so. I don't agree. I completely agree with you. And thank you. I appreciate the love.
Well,
Learn
hold
to-
on. NANA. Wendy's sucks. Sorry, not sorry.
Team
Well,
Skeptic got no eyes.
Hey,
That's what I was
Wendy.
telling
Hey,
you.
NANA. We had a great conversation earlier. I finished it off by telling you something along the lines of I love you and respect you. Ignore everything I just said. Okay. Ignore everything I told you earlier. We're done. Look at that. Look at that. God damn it. I look good in glasses. I look almost as good.
Look
Tommy
at
does.
those eyes, though. That's
Super
about the
blue.
4th time you came around to Johnny saying, Johnny, say goodbye.
I know. Okay. No lie. I don't remember a lot about last Whiskey Wednesday. I don't. And I totally forgot that I talked about the minivan. Do you guys remember me talking about the minivan?
Not sure. Which
That's
part?
2 in the pink, 5 in the stink.
Oh, yeah. The minivan. Oh, my
Yeah.
God.
I forgot I talked about it. My brother had to remind me. I also forgot that I had said goodbye at least 12 times, and I gave
Yeah,
each
at
one
the
of
very
you
least.
an ample opportunity to leave. So y'all can thank me later for
Did
that.
you really rewatch it and see us all going like, just push that button, buddy. We love you.
No.
Yeah.
At the end of it, we're like,
we were
just reach
telling
up
your
and push
brother-
that red button.
We're
Just
telling
push
your
that
brother,
button. You
just
can do
push
it.
the red button. Anyway,
The
learning
team
with
looks almost
Douche,
fuckable in glasses. Almost. Thank you.
for $20 US says that was an excellent stream. I'll have to
shit.
watch the beginning. Have a great night. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Bees for $4.99 says thanks, Johnny and panel. You're welcome, and thank you for the super chat. Commander Darklight for $22.99 Aussie says thanks for a great show. Thank you, Commander Darklight. I appreciate it. Everybody, that's we gotta figure out how we move on. That picture. We got to figure out how to move on. It's important. It's important for your health, the betterment of the community. So let's oh geez, now I got two teams captain. Oh man.
Yeah. It's
Anyway,
just hold us all
JL Warren,
accountable. That's all
exactly.
I'm going to say.
Accountability is so huge. Don't let this discourage you from, if you have a legitimate fundraiser that you want to run, as long as you work that accountability angle, you'll be fine. JL Warren for $1.99 says blue eyes shining from within dark sunken hollows.
That's right. That is right. The blue eyes of hell.
All right, I'm gonna get us out of here. So
I'm not gonna lie, I look fucking sexy in those glasses, bro. I'm sorry. I know y'all are probably sick and tired of me, fucking. But look at it.
Spirit fingers, that's what it was.
That guy up there, I'm dead serious. Like whoever said I'm almost fuckable is totally wrong. I am totally fuckable with those glasses on. I got a random compliment on him, so I was like, "Hey, it's nice." Earlier,
You're
kind of fun to do. I'm like bobbleheading, like Team Skeptic bobbleheading.
Well, I wore them out. I had them on, and I wore them out to NA is gonna hate me for saying this, but Wendy's, because I go there regularly. $5 big bag, get a double stack baconator with chicken nuggets and fries and a drink for $5. Good deal, whether you like it or not. NA. And I wore my glasses.
Is not sponsored by Wendy's, by the way.
It is sponsored by.
Well, listen, ice cream machines are always broken at McDonald's, so go to Wendy's.
There you go.
Yeah.
Did you see that documentary?
No, I know how to fix that.
I've
you
never
just stick your tongue. No, you stick your tongue inside of the ice cream dispenser part, and it'll free up the clog. And then once the clog's freed, you just.
Hey, I even lined up the neckline.
Put it in your cone.
There it is. Look at.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, we're getting out of here. Everybody say goodbye. Say goodbye.
Bye.
Later.